Hey guys, this is Markuis for CardRunners.com, and today I'm going to be making the final part of this 100 NL video on PokerStars, in which I play a variety of opponents. And right now I'm playing 3 separate opponents. To be honest, you don't really need to watch the first 2 parts as much as you might need to in a series in which I'm playing the same opponent, because I'm just switching in between opponents so frequently throughout this footage that there aren't too many reads that I've developed or too much game flow that's going to play into the hands. I played 9 hands against this guy on the top left, 77 and 94 on the bottom right, so not too much history so far. I think this is about where we left off in the second part. I call on the bottom right, and it turns out to be right, and he was betting the turn with a hand that had very little equity, so if someone's betting turns that wide on the bottom right, I'm going to be making some light call downs and consider delayed c-betting pretty often, because I think it's a leak for someone to be betting turns with little equity. If he's doing that somewhat frequently, I think doing it every now and then is fine. But if you start doing it too often, you're just going to have a ton of bluffs. And a lot of people have very exploitable turn frequencies when you check back flops. Some people bet all their pairs automatically, and therefore when they check, they've got an incredibly weak range. Some people bluff too often with no equity hands. Some people check fold a lot when they hit nothing, and you can delayed c-bet pretty profitably and be sure that basically when they check, you've got a decent c-bet or a decent bet opportunity. And there are other tendencies which you could exploit. On the top right, so I 3-bet king queen suited. This guy has been folding to 50% of 3-bets. I haven't been 3-betting much though, so it's not a very big sample size. And I opt to c-bet this flop. I think that against some players you could go for a check call here, and I'd probably check call some of the time, but I just thought that Volko BR would be pretty straightforward and would just let me take the spot away from him when he didn't hit too much, or if he had a hand like pocket 7s or pocket 6s, he wouldn't stick around too much. I don't know if I love it, because I also think that he's the type of player who might let me show down my king high pretty often. If someone's really barely one check 2 and 3-bet pots, which is definitely something you'll find in a lot of players, then I'll err towards betting my more marginal hands out of position, and I think king high would qualify as one of those marginal hands, which I don't really want to get barreled into. But against Volko BR, I think I can get away with check folding the flop actually, and not be too worried, and allowing it to go to show down a decent bit and have the best hand with king high some of the time. But I opt to bet, which is, it's okay. It's not, I think I would have preferred to check, but I think a bet's all right. And on this turn, I think, I don't think it's the worst play to bet kind of small and then shove river, because I think it looks super strong. And although he will have some ace X's, which are just going to auto call down, he'll have a lot of jack X, 8X, maybe some hands like 9-10 or a flush draw or queen 10. A lot of hands which he'll likely call turn to fold on a lot of rivers. So I think that betting this turn small, even though it's not a great scare card for his range, and then shoving the river can make a lot of sense depending on your image. And I think my image is probably good enough to get away with doing this, but I'm pretty sure I just decided to give up. I think it's a common tendency to just see like a complete blank on turns and just give up with a lot of your air, but it's definitely worth barreling in a lot of spots. And in a situation like this, his flop calling range has so many, 8Xs, jack Xs, 9-7, 10-7 suited, flush draws, 10-9, maybe like king 10 type hands, which are either going to fold on the turn or fold by the river so often that I think it can make sense to bet pretty small and then shove river. So I check back on the bottom right. I'm going to call turn for sure, and when he checks back, I'm going to check it down. And I don't think it's worth a bluff on, or turning my hand into a bluff on the bottom right. Top right, he bets, and I just had to fold. I'll fold the best hand sometimes there. And against some players who have really polarized betting ranges there, who would check back, a lot of weak ace X's, for instance, you could probably get away with check calling just because they're going to have a ton of draws or maybe some floats. But I don't have enough information on him to know for sure that he's got a really polarized betting range there. He bets small on the bottom right, and I think the play is just a fold. There's so many random pairs that he could be doing this with, and not that it's a bad play, but weaker players tend to show up with a lot of random pairs here. And, I think it's a fine value bet if he's got a 6 or something to put in a small bet, because a 6 probably won't be beat all that often.